I was 7 years old when I determined that I wanted to live a life beyond borders. But it wasn't until 20 years later that I sold everything that I owned to live out my childhood subconscious desires. Societally, we focus on asking children what it is that they want to be when they get older, with this understanding that they often pull this inspiration from external sources as opposed to from within. I believe that more than looking up to adults, it should be our younger selves that are inspiration and our role models. Now, of course, we may want to be like our parents or older siblings, favorite pop culture celebrity or political figures. But somewhere between youth and adulthood, our childhood visions are conformed by collective boundaries and being told that we must color and live within the societal lines. As a result, these dreams get disregarded because they are believed to have not met their full maturation. But what if we did give more merit to our younger selves? What if we allowed our younger selves to be our compass to guide us through to adulthood? As children, we set the wildest goals for ourselves. And this is because our minds are still unfiltered and we're able to be more honest with what it is that we really want out of life. Isn't this the most ideal time to set future goals for ourselves when our mindsets are free from bias? I consider myself lucky because I'm one of the few who knew at a very early age exactly what I wanted to be when I grew up. I was in the second grade when I determined I wanted to be a psychologist, but not for the reason you might think. I mainly wanted this profession because I'm nosy and I liked being the secret keeper to other people's life stories. Before this, the only other job that I had ever admired and aspired to be was an astronaut. But much like my decision to be a psychologist, this desire was rooted in my childhood logic of how cool I thought it would be to have a job doing anti-gravity backflips in space all day. Although I wasn't sensibly able to articulate why I wanted this profession, I knew very early on that I wanted to shape my future, traveling beyond borders while living outside of the lines, in addition to being able to help people. Many people believe that as you age and evolve, so too should your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. But research suggests that abandoning your childhood desires can actually be detrimental to your mental health. According to Carl Jung, complex trauma can develop from our childhood needs going unmet. Now, of course, this is in the way of our psychological needs, safety, belonging, esteem, love, and self-actualization. This still shows that there is some merit and benefit to maintaining our childlike wonder and allowing it to navigate our decision-making process. As I progressed through life, I eventually forewent the idea of being a space traveler. And although my dreams evolved, they didn't completely change. I didn't always take a path that was in direct alignment with me becoming a psychologist. In fact, I deviated a little bit when I decided to be a manager at one of my favorite American retail stores. Now, this decision doesn't seem like it's in any type of alignment with becoming a psychologist, but I still use my childhood dream to navigate me through this process. I was prepared to climb the corporate ladder, but 2 years in, doing so no longer felt right. It no longer gave me the sense of happiness that I had working at this store that I thought I would have had my 7-year-old self grown up to be a psychologist. I used this feeling of misalignment to be my guiding light. It no longer felt right. I allowed that to help me to reassess, recalibrate, and to get back on track. I eventually quit my job at this store, and decided to go back to school to pursue my childhood dream of being a psychologist. And, well, spoiler alert, I made it. Although this non-traditional pathway worked for me, I'll admit there are some common concerns with holding on to a single dream and seeing it through to adulthood. The concern is that after a lifelong pursuit of a single dream, once you finally obtain it, it can fall beneath your expectation. And while this is a fair fear to have, it's one that's rooted in our negative bias brain. So to counter it, I would use positive psychology. And I would ask, what if it did live up to your expectations? Or better yet, what if it exceeded your expectations? Another such concern people often ask is, does holding on to a single dream cause you to miss out on other life experiences? And while yes, it can also be your navigation system as you traverse through these other life experiences. For example, I had plenty of other alternative opportunities outside of what I thought my one true path would be. I use these situations and these alternative pathways to help me to look at my childhood hypothesis and to test it and to see if I really wanted this childhood dream to turn into my adult reality. So you see, the argument, therefore, is not to be held captive by these dreams, but to hold these desires loosely and to allow our younger selves to be our muses and to guide us through our lifelong needs. For example, I never quite traveled beyond Earth's borders in a spaceship, but I was still able to use these childhood dreams and weave them into the fabric of my adult reality in a way that my childhood self probably could have never imagined. As an international psychologist, I have explored over 50 countries and lived in 4. And I have the distinct honor and privilege of being able to help multicultural individuals through some of their life's most toughest challenges. So this is why when Abraham Maslow suggests that knowing what it is that you really want in life is a difficult psychological achievement, I disagree. I believe instead that this knowledge lies deep within our childhood psyche versus the rational decision-making process that academic literature often seems to focus on. I believe in order to reach this inner accomplishment, we must allow our childhood psyche to be our muse. So in order to do so, in order to live a more fulfilling and creative life full of potential, I would offer these 3 simple steps. First, I want you to ask yourself, what dream would you create for yourself if you knew that there were no limitations? Absolutely no restrictions. Then I want you to consider, if you knew this dream was actually attainable, how would you feel knowing that you could achieve it? Next, I want you to consider, how would you feel and what would you think if you knew this dream was tangible, if you knew that you would be able to achieve it, but then willingly chose not to, and willingly chose to live beneath your potential? Sitting with these answers can allow you to comprehend these truths at a deeper cognitive level. This concept can also be applied to childhood aspirations that fall outside of reality. For example, wanting to grow up to be a Disney princess or a superhero, or even for some of those aspirations that are not in any alignment with any type of career path. People who have seemingly unrealistic or grandiose dreams can still find meaning by focusing on the symbolism of their dream as opposed to the dream itself. For example, Superheroes and Disney princesses have common qualities such as bravery, tolerance, strength, and loyalty. Focusing on these underlying traits to the desires can be more helpful than focusing on the attribute of the character itself. Psychology scholars suggest that concepts that work at the level of the subconscious provide more insight into life's motivation than pondering them at the surface level. Our mindsets are vast, and psychology dictates that much happens underneath the surface, that if it goes unexplored, it also goes unused. So while it may be frightening, it's really important that we search these interpersonal depths in order to live a life full of capacity and full of potential. This is why I believe that we should be taught younger to trust ourselves. We should be taught younger to be our own inspiration. I believe that if we are encouraged to fuse the goals of the muse of our childhood psyche, we will inevitably see the beauty in coloring outside the lines. Thank you.